I've been backpacking Stoveless for the last few years, so I'm going to walk you through why, show you some equipment, and finally, some recipe tips. Going Stoveless. Good question. I discovered this a few years back on one of my hiking trips in Algonquin Park. It was one night, 2 days, and I wasn't really prepared. I just had some light gear. I was already car camping in the area. So I just grabbed a sub and some granola bars, threw them in my backpack, and away I went. If I have no stove, I'm eating cold food only. So my breakfast is a Cliff Bar and some craisins. It was awesome. No stove, no problems, no hassles. So from that point forward, I was looking for other opportunities and other ways of getting around going stoveless, and I discovered that there was a greater community out there doing the same thing. So I wasn't alone. So the next inevitable stage of going stoveless is developing cold soaking strategies. So I'm going to discuss that today, a little bit about my experiences with cold soaking and some of my successes and some of my failures. But I want to address a bit about going stoveless. People think it's like a bizarre, strange thing. It is not. I mean, people have been doing it for years. I mean, the British soldiers in the War of 1812, they were giving bread and some salted meat, and that was their food rations, and no stove required. Of course, when we were going to school, elementary school or even high school, we'd pack a lunch, all cold stuff, whether it was a sandwich, an apple, cheese, banana, no stove required. So it's not a new concept. So the trick is, how can you do it so you can sustain a long hiking trip, get the nutrients you need, and also to enjoy your meals. So the backbone of much of camping stoveless is cold soaking. So I've dabbled with that for the last few years. In fact, I've exclusively gone camping pretty much with cold soaking. I've left my stove behind. Right before you, you see some of the jars I've tried. Let's just go through some of the more traditional ones first of all. First of all, this is a typical peanut butter jar, and in Canada it's Kraft, and it works really well. I think it's about 750 mils, but what it does have, it has a bit of a lip here, a bit of a sharp lip, which causes some grief, and the bottom is rounded, so a little harder to get the nutrients out at the bottom of the pile when you start to get down to the end. So, good, but not the best. So, this is one of the most popular ones, a Talenti jar. This is a type of ice cream, actually it's gelato ice cream. And for Canadians, you can't get it there, so I had to get this across the border, bought some ice cream, and brought back a jar. Now this is really the perfect size. It's about 500 mils or about 16 ounces. And it is a really good jar. It's waterproof, water resistant, tough as nails, works really well. But again, the bottom is not perfectly smooth. It is a little bit bumpy, so a little harder to get all the goodness out at the bottom of the pile. So that works out really well. That's a good choice. So, the Vargo Bot. This is really the cat's meow. It weighs a lot more than the other options. I think it's about 120 grams, where the other ones are around 50 to 60 grams. So you're paying about twice as much, but you can also use this for a stove option if you need be. And if you don't bring a stove, you can at least put it on the fire and you can still heat up stuff. So it provides you a little bit of duality. You can do some cold soaking as well as some cooking. The problems with this though is because the seal is so good, there's a silicone gaskets there. So when you close it up and the seal becomes so good that if you change altitudes or the pressure in the air changes, this becomes sealed like a vacuum seal, and it's really difficult to get it open. So one of the only ways to get it open when it gets like that is to get a little knife or the back end of your spoon and pry it open, which relieves the pressure, and then you can eventually open it. So that locked on me a few times during some of my trips, which gave me enough grief that I'm not sure I want this for cold soaking. But it is a very good product by Vargo, something worth considering. Another option worth considering is the Knock Outdoors cold soaking bag. Now, they're one of the only companies that exclusively makes a product just for cold soaking. It's essentially a 1 liter version of their water bag they use for water carries. So you can double it as a water bag if you need be. Problem is it's so deep it makes it difficult to clean. It's also so deep that you can't use a regular spoon without getting your hands all gooey. So you need a long spoon. And I'm not really partial to the long spoons because I like the collapsible spoons for storage as I'm hiking through the trails. Now, these little 3 babies are my favorite. There's a little online store in the United States. It's called Lightsmiths, and they sell these in different sizes. And let me just walk you through them all. First of all, this is my favorite. This is the 500 ml or the 16 ounce size. The shape and the size of it is perfect. A totally flat bottom, no sharp edges for the lip. It actually has a sealed gasket on the top. It becomes waterproof, not just water resistant. Locks up real tight. That is my favorite. If you want to really go streamline, use the 12 ounce. I think it's about 350 mils. And that works for your cereal and your ramen. And if you're a hardy soul, go for the bigger size. I think this is about 700 mils. Or I think it's about 20 ounces. I don't know. But anyway, that one works really well. But from all my experience, the right size for me is the 500 mil. This is perfect. Now to top it all off, you want a spoon. So there's lots of spoons. I'm going to do another video on why I've chosen this spoon, but this is my favorite spoon. It's a Human Gear Click. I think it's called a Click. And it just clicks into place, and it's got a great shape. It also folds real nicely, so when you're between cold soakings, you got your whole thing contained. Now, while you're cold soaking, assuming this is full of goodness and you've thrown some water in, I put an elastic on there to keep it all self-contained. Throw it on the side of my backpack. Well, let's get the food for cold soaking. Most of it can be acquired at your local grocery store. So let's do some shopping. First of all, let's get some of the base. That's the food with most of the carbohydrates. I start out with some mashed potatoes, grab some couscous, some instant rice, and some ramen noodles. These 4 are the standards I use for my base. The base itself provides the calories, however, I want it to taste good. So if you go over to the spice section, you can grab some tasty spices like pad thai, some taco sauce, maybe some gravies. Anyway, they're all there waiting for you. So just grab a few what you like and save them for your spices. Then after you get your spices, you need some protein. So grab some meat, either a spiced pepperoni, maybe some tuna, peanut butter, whether it's powdered. Beef jerky is also a good option. Now provide the extras, which give some extra calories and some flavor. Peanuts are good, goldfish crackers are excellent, bacon bits and sun-dried tomatoes are some of the staples I use. How to cold soak? Well, everyone's got a slightly different technique, but I'll tell you what's worked for me. First of all, these 4 items of food are the basics. So you start out with these, and then you can add all sorts of goodness to make it delicious. So the first one here is mashed potatoes, couscous, instant rice, and ramen noodles, or the Mr. Noodles. There are many different brands, they're all very cheap. So each one of these provides a great staple and a real base. So let's show you how I do it. I started with the base. Now ramen noodles is a bit of a different thing than the others because noodles are very hard, they take up a lot of room, so I usually crush them all up. Okay, once it's all crushed up, I open it and I pour it into my jar. Take out the seasoning, throw that out, and then there you go. So with that, you can add all sorts of goodness. You can add some meat, some tuna, some cheese, some spices, and you're good to go. One of my favorites is with this, add some powdered peanut butter, some actual peanuts, and then you can get some pad thai spices from the grocery store. Mix it all together and you get a little poor man's pad thai. Works out well. So with that, just fill it up with water, just till basically you cover everything. Shake it up, put it in your backpack, and depending on what the base is, anywhere from just a few minutes to a few hours, you'll have a delicious meal. Mashed potatoes, pretty much instantaneous. Ramen noodles is pretty fast. In fact, because it soaks up so much water, you might want to add a little bit more after, but you're talking like 20 minutes. The instant rice, you really want to soak it a few hours. And then the couscous, definitely a few hours, and you're good to go. Breakfast is the easiest meal to cold soak. I start out with some instant cereal, some steel cut oats is usually the best for you, but I prefer the Quaker oats. Then I add some protein powder, some dried fruits such as craisins, maybe some apricots, and some nuts, whether it's coconuts, peanuts, maybe some walnuts. The process is really simple. I take the instant cereal, usually 2 packages, open it up, pour it in the cold soaking jar. Then I add the protein powder, the nuts, and then the dried fruit. Then you add the water. You don't want to add too much because you can't take it out and it becomes too soupy. So you add just enough to cover all the ingredients, shake it up, throw it in your backpack, and about an hour down the trail, you open it up again. You may find that you need to add some more water, so just go ahead and do that. And then sit down and have a delicious and nutritious breakfast. I have a cold soaking secret weapon. It's using dehydrated meals. I've been testing Backpacker's Pantry for the last couple of decades and rather like the meals and discovered that most of them work really well for cold soaking. However, some do not. I also prepare them and package them differently, so I'm all ready for my cold soaking experience. So in a subsequent video, I'll show you my secrets. Well, that's pretty much it. That's my strategy for going stoveless and cold soaking. It's easier to clean, it's lighter, there's no fuel to manage. So if you want to enjoy the moments and not get all tangled up in the food preparation, that's a lot of people do, that may be your thing. So get out there, enjoy the moments, and have a great day.